So for my project, I am going to be talking about my photogram from Drawing with Light class with Robin Myers. So when I first got to the class, I arrived with very limited knowledge about photography because my art teachers in high school wanted me to focus more on drawing with charcoal, colored pencils, anything that can produce an actual drawing. So I really hadn't done anything with photography, and I didn't even know what a photogram was. So once I started getting into the class, I first learned how to make the photogram, and after discovering techniques of combining photograms, Polaroids, collaging, and sewing, then I learned that I could basically do anything I wanted with them. So, what is a photogram? Basically, the formal definition of a photogram is a picture produced with photographic materials such as light-sensitive paper. So basically, when you go into the darkroom, the light-sensitive paper and the lens, when you expose the lens and turn on the light, then it exposes the paper with the objects on top of it. So it's a different type of photography just without the camera. So our first project was to not only introduce us as students to the darkroom, but just about like the process of making a print and how you can basically do anything. It was just to test out different textures, shapes, lighting. So I decided to make a small version, 5x4 vertical photogram. And at first I was just winging it with different materials to see how it would come out. I really didn't have a specific idea in mind. But it ended up giving off more of like a haunted alien habitat, or even like the cells in a human body. So this was a negative, black in the background and white in the foreground, which is usually, that's the inverse of usually how a photogram would turn out. And I used push pins, spider web material, and red string. So there was a great grayscale in this image from the different colors and textures. My concept for this image is almost to show the repercussions of smoking a cigarette, and I wanted to show like the spider webs as like a smoke almost, and like wanted there to be like a lot of movement, something beautiful to the eye. And then the harsh pins are supposed to represent like the harsh effects that actually catch up to you once you start smoking a lot. It can also be shown as a clogged throat or a smoker's cough almost. So I wanted to send this message because I always, as like a younger girl, portrayed cigarettes as something beautiful because it was always shown to be like cool or all like pretty in movies or fashion magazines, and that's why I wanted to make the photogram look attractive and look appealing, but it actually has a deeper meaning to it. My piece can basically represent anything you want it to be. I was not intentionally trying to send a certain message to the viewer in only one way of thinking, but I want the viewer to have an open mind and view it as anything that they want it to view it as. So the first artist I'm going to be relating it to is Man Ray, and he was born in America in 1890 and died in Paris in 1976. He was a huge icon for Dada, Cubism, and the Surrealism era. So a quote by him that he once said is, "I do not photograph nature, I photograph visions." So his piece that I'm going to be relating it to is called Gun with Alphabet Stencils. So this was made in 1924, and it is a similar work. It is a negative, just like mine. Although there are no soft objects in this image, the sharp alphabet stencils are randomly placed, like the pins in my image. And you can tell that they're randomly placed because they don't form into any words or sentences. And like my piece, I believe that Man Ray had a deeper vision to send to people. So I think that he might be trying to say that an unloaded gun can indicate that the letters are bullets fallen and scattered from the barrel. Maybe he is trying to tell the viewer that a gun is not a toy, even though it may come off that way to be casual to some people. It is important in most art to look into the symbolism of what is in the image, because a lot of artists intentionally put objects into their photograms or into their paintings. The second artist that relates to my work is Thomas Ruff. He was born in West Germany in 1958 and is known for his photography and editing his images. So the one that I thought best worked with my piece was his photograms in Mars that was presented at New York at David's Winter Museum. So these photograms were printed huge and hung up on the wall, and they're images of Mars with photogram techniques on top of them. So he wanted to use the balance of chance to manipulate his work, which could add a confusing effect to it. And although mine was black and white and his is color, I relate to his work because he's experimenting with technology, texture, color, and the manipulation of a photogram. He wants to trick the viewer's mind. There may or may not be a deeper meaning to his photograms, but he wants you to interpret it on your own, just like my piece. So, lastly, I would like to relate my work to Kuni Sujira, and she was born in Japan in 1942, but then soon moved to America when she was young. She uses photograms to manipulate images of nature and people so they can be seen as a drawing or painting piece. The piece After Electric Dress B is a negative photogram like mine. Made in 2001, the 69 by 44.5-inch photogram is of a life-size person wrapped in a dress made out of Christmas lights. So although I do not use people in my photograms, I do believe that she utilized texture and movement very well, just like I did. From observation, this piece is 4 panels stuck together. There could be symbolism to this. She could be trying to show the viewer a feeling of claustrophobia, or even the opposite, embracing one's inner light and beauty. So even if the viewer cannot tell what's fully happening, the negative image still gives off an eerie and haunted vibe, just like the photogram I had made. Altogether, I have to say that learning how the process of a photogram happens and being able to have the basic techniques of a photogram, then you can just go down any path you want. Then you can start developing film, making cyanograph prints, cliche verse, collaging. There's basically anything you can do with it and incorporate it into your major. So that is why I picked the photogram, because I believe it will really help me in the long run, also with my fashion design and printing photograms on fabric. Overall, it was my favorite class, and I'm happy I got to share it with you guys. So, thank you.